Now listen, don't let their words get to you. They got no heaven or hell to put you in, so you just continue to keep your head up and, tell the haters bye-bye. Well, according to my calculations, honey, we're on the x-axis, and the haters, they reside on the y-axis. Now, listen, don't let me run a linear regression model to prove my point further. Okay, fine, I'm running the model. What's going on, everyone? James here with another real recap and review for Season 5 of Love is Blind. Now this week we have a small number of episodes, only episodes 8 and 9 to talk about. But that's not the smallest number of episodes this season in a full week, because next week is the final episode for Season 5, which is episode 10, The Weddings. So you're going to want to stay subscribed to the channel, hit the big red button below if you aren't already, and get involved in the comments too, because this season so far of Love is Blind is nuts. If you missed my recaps and reviews for the previous 2 weeks, find them in the description below or floating around at the top of the screen. We have a lot to talk about, trust me, especially in episodes 8 and 9. The drama was at an all-time high in some instances. Now, just like in weeks 1 and 2, I'm going to talk about my spoiler-free thoughts and give you my spoiler-filled recap, so time codes are below. And you know what? We only have 2 engaged couples to talk about, and then a homewrecker as well. So, trust me, we'll get into it, but without spoiling anything, let's get into my spoiler-free thoughts. There are 2 episodes, like I mentioned at the top, guys. Episode 8 and Episode 9. So, Episode 8 is titled Love is a Battlefield. And I feel like now the song is going to be stuck in my head. And then Episode 9 is titled Love on the Rocks. And that is not an actual song, so that won't get stuck in my head. Praise God. But I do have some notes here, honestly, without, again, getting into any spoilers. I actually appreciated the fact that this week's episodes were more consistent, I would say, than the previous 2 weeks, and I mean that in a good way and sometimes in a less dramatic way. If you're looking for drama, episode 8 will deliver that in the first half, and everything after that is not as dramatic. Let me tell you guys, it feels like a lot of the major drama in this season is probably already gone. We're just going to now start getting into some real conversations, which we do in episodes 8 and 9. So I appreciated the fact, again, that this is going to be, it seems like it's going to be more of a real ending. You know, we're not going to get the theatrics and the dramatics. I mean, we could, but I do imagine that episode 10 next week is going to be just realistic. And I'm going to be dropping my predictions video soon too, because I do have some thoughts on who I think after watching episodes 8 and 9 are going to say I do or I don't at the altar. And something else I want to mention in terms of being real and grounded are these family meetups, especially with Milton's family. Now, Lydia meeting Milton's family, we'll get into it in more detail, but let's just say I'm glad that the editors and the producers didn't try to make it something that it wasn't. It was just so authentic. Appreciated that. Now, did it go well for Milton? Well, again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. And one more note I want to say is the fact, okay, so listen, I don't expect Emmy-worthy editing, you know, from Love is Blind. It's a reality TV show on Netflix. However, the editing was a hot mess at points, especially in episode 9. Now, all season long, the editing I felt has been a little bit of a downer. It's not necessarily cut together properly sometimes, and you can just tell when they're just jumping from one shot to another shot because maybe they don't have enough filler and they're trying to add more tension. It doesn't work, and it makes me feel nauseous. Literally, I was getting a little sick during one of these scenes, and not just because of what I was seeing, but just because of the way it was shot. So I was hoping more, right? I wanted more from the editing, and I felt like we didn't get that in episodes 8 and 9. But hey, good thing the weddings are on the way, which means, well, that the editing might ruin that too. We'll see. So with that being said, y'all, it's time to now transition from my spoiler-free section to the spoiler-filled recap and review. So warning, if you have not watched episodes 8 and 9 yet in their entirety, pause this video, give it a like, save it to your watch later, and come on back when you finished watching episodes 8 and 9. And for those who have been sticking with me since the beginning of season 5, I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you for just coming back, being consistent in the comments, and I cannot wait for the discourse. based on what we're about to talk about. So let's get started. As you remember, in episode 7, we were left on a cliffhanger. At the end of that episode, we saw that Uche and Milton were having a conversation after Lydia and Uche's conversation didn't go too well. Uche is trifling, honestly. I cannot wait to get into this. But Uche and Milton had a conversation that I'm sure Lydia probably would not want Milton to be a part of, but Uche was spilling the tea on Lydia. However, the way Uche was presenting all of this felt very gossipy, kind of like, why are you bringing this up now? That was a question running through my head. The man is a homewrecker. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Homeboy couldn't have Lydia, couldn't have Aaliyah, felt like maybe no one should have either in Love is Blind Season 5. He's just going around saying all this nonsense and trying to just get on people's nerves. And honestly, it worked. I am happy to see that Milton looked like he didn't even want to be a part of this conversation, and eventually Lydia says, I'm gonna physically take you out of this conversation, and pulls Milton away. But it's what Uche said after this happened that made me side-eye him even more. He says, don't let her control you, and I quote, you're gonna let her come between your friends? Okay, homie, Milton didn't even want to talk with you. I mean, clearly, Uche, you wanted to converse with Milton more than Milton wanted to converse with you. So, it doesn't make sense in my head. It doesn't compute why Uche would feel the need to bring all of this up to Milton. I don't even know if Uche and Milton are good friends, honestly. But you'd think it would stop there with Uche. But it didn't. As we returned back to the Pod Squad meetup, Uche was ready to dish on some more contestants. So he's spilling Lydia and his drama to the rest of the group, who clearly didn't even seem like they were asking for this. Again, I beg the question, what are we doing, Uche? Why? Why are you telling everyone your business and no one is asking for it? But one of the absolute funniest moments in Love is Blind history happens next, where Uche says stuff about Lydia and Johnny's face and her jaw just drops. And then Stacy looks at Johnny, remember, they have a tiff, and Stacy says, is your face okay? I literally had to pause the episode and I cackled, y'all. I cackled. When she said, is your face okay? I couldn't believe it. And then Johnny, of course, is thinking, what the heck? Why are you getting on me? Listen, Stacy's gonna ride for her man, so of course Stacy's not a fan of Johnny. But when I tell you that was hands down the most hilarious line I think I've ever heard uttered in the way it was to another contestant in Love is Blind, yeah, it was great. And then eventually Uche's like, maybe I'm gonna stop talking bad about Lydia and let me go ahead and talk bad about Miriam. And Uche and Miriam end up having a tiff. Uche said, stop talking, you're fake. And then he says something else that was completely out of pocket. He goes to Miriam and says, don't you live in Saudi Arabia? But the way he delivered it felt a little weird. I felt some type of way for Miriam in that moment. And then Miriam said, let me take off my earrings and take off my shoes. We are getting into this. Now, that didn't really happen, but trust me, if she could, she probably would have swung on Uche. Uche got her so heated and got Miriam's friend Maris upset as well, if you remember Maris from the pods. Although I have a question, Love is Blind fam. Did Maris always have that accent and sound like that? If she did, fine. But I do not recall her having that accent. Let me know in the comments. So eventually the shouting match continues, and then Miriam says, and I quote, I'll read you for the filth you are. I mean, Miriam, girl, go ahead. Go ahead. And just read that man up and down like a book, okay? I'm telling y'all. Uche opened a can of worms and wasn't expecting snakes to come out because boy oh boy did Uche get ripped. And you know what's going to happen in the reunion. You know what's going to happen. They're going to have a segment all about Uche and the man is going to get dragged through the mud once again. And eventually during all of this we find out that, according to Lydia, Uche slept with someone else while they were dating. This is just too much, man. Uche is becoming a main character all over again, and I don't love it because I think Uche is exactly the type of guy. Shout out to my buddy Chris from Tate's Take. He said, Yeah, this is the kind of guy you want to be very careful having your daughter around. And it's true, he's a manipulator, he's a liar, and the man craves attention. And he's also a gaslighter, and gosh, the list just kind of goes on. Let me get my scroll. And of course, Johnny has to try and insert herself into the conversation again, so she says, well, Uche's very convincing. You know what, Johnny? Go somewhere. Just, Johnny, just do something. Because you need to just go. Get out of this conversation. It's not about you. And go and live your happily ever after with Chris, whom you admittedly dumped and then tried to get with Izzy for. So, listen. But it was towards this Pod Squad meetup that I actually gained a new level of respect for Milton, because he handled the entire situation very maturely. I love the fact that Milton was telling Lydia, like, hey, I understand you're upset and you're emotional, but right now, don't worry about Uche, because like we're on an X direction, like the X axis, and he's on the Y axis, and we're going in different directions, and the man is I love it. Okay, it's just, I know I joked about it at the top of this recap and review, but it's true. He shaded Uche in his own way, and it was great. But that's not all, guys. We do have to talk about Chris's conversation with Izzy. Chris is, of course, standing by his girl and trying to tell Izzy, like, dude, we might be cool, right? But don't go after my girlfriend. And Izzy's trying to warn Chris because he, quote-unquote, cares for him. And Stacy's still in the background, like, why are you hung up on this, bro? Get over it, Izzy. But you can tell Izzy's still blasted. The man is 2 sheets to the wind. And he is, of course, maybe doing the most right now and trying to close this gap for himself. And then Stacy joins the convo. Then Johnny comes over, and now it's a big old happy family, right? Absolutely not. Stacy ends up telling Johnny like it is and says, you're full of it. And Johnny says, well, Stacy, you're deceitful. And it's a back and forth shouting match until they decide, alrighty, we gotta let go. And I'm kind of glad they did, because it was going around in circles. However, for the dramatics, it definitely served its purpose. Boy, Stacy and Johnny, they just don't like each other. Of course, I hope that they eventually will get along, but right now, things do not look promising in that department. And to end the night, we have Lydia and Milton having yet again another conversation, and this time it's Milton comforting Lydia, and it's so heartfelt. Honestly, I've become more of a Milton fan after this week's episodes, and I can explain more in detail as we go on, but just know, I think Milton is doing a good job. Now, is he young and maybe he's a little naive in some instances and still shouts things when he takes shots with his homies? Sure. But yeah, I do think Milton has definitely gained a new level of respect for me, especially in the way that he's willing to be mature and he's the youngest one in the room. So days after this meetup, you guys, we got to check in on our engaged couples. They're back in their apartments and they're having some real conversations. So let's start with Izzy and Stacy. So they come home after that long evening, and Stacy and Izzy still have some unresolved stones to unturn. And Stacy asks Izzy, why are you looking out for Chris when it comes to Johnny? Like, why do you care so much? And to that point, I agree with her. But Izzy, being blasted as he usually is and not able to sort of speak coherently after these get-togethers, the man should just stop doing that because he acts out every time. He tells Stacy that essentially, this is for me. I mean, yes, we know it's for you, Izzy, but just stop talking. Izzy doesn't follow my advice, and he keeps digging a hole, and he just needs to stop. Stacy becomes concerned that Izzy is only so passionate in these instances because of the conflict he has with Johnny and Chris. And then you start to see Stacy's insecurities come out a little bit more about Izzy and Johnny in the pods, and I'm starting to sense a little bit of a rift. And then things bubble to a head, and Stacy says, Izzy, I feel like you're more talk than action. That man brings you Monday flowers. Okay, Monday flowers, Stacy. He's all about that action. Okay, being sarcastic, but still, that must have hurt Izzy, and clearly it did because he goes sobbing into the restroom. Izzy says, you make me feel I'm not good enough for you, and Stacy tries to go and comfort Izzy with her baby voice after she just read him like a book. So girl, what are you doing? Yeah, she's trying to make up for it, and it's like the damage has already kind of been done, and Izzy eventually says he feels like he can't do this anymore. So I'm starting to think, y'all, are they even gonna make it? Fast forward to the conversation that they have after all of this, and well, we are now transported to Stacy's job, her 9 to 5 as a fitness instructor. And why does it not surprise me that Stacy's a fitness instructor? I can actually see that. I should have thought of that earlier. But Izzy shows up to her place of employment right after she finishes teaching, I believe, a Pilates class or some sort of Pilates fusion class. And Stacy and Izzy hash it out, and they actually have a very mature resolve, and they come together, and it seems like they work through it. I actually really like that Stacy says she hates that she made Izzy sad, and Izzy said he's willing to work on how he responds to situations. So congratulations, Stacy and Izzy, for continuing to get through these arguments in a mature way. Seriously, it's refreshing as a Love is Blind fan to see couples handle things maturely. It's nice. So let's move on to Milton and Lydia. I don't have many notes here, but yeah, it just seems like once they get back to the apartment, Milton and Lydia they're just there. Most of the drama and all the discourse is really with Stacy and Izzy and with Uche, at least this week. But that doesn't mean that they escape all of the drama, guys, because now it's time to meet the parents. Let's start with Milton and Lydia. So Lydia is finally meeting Milton's parents, and Milton makes a comment to her that he hates bringing people around his family. That's not great, but in a way, I understand to a degree, because if you know your family's difficult to deal with, you probably do not enjoy bringing your friends or your partners, or partner, I should say, around your family. And right away, I could tell that Milton's parents were very timid. And of course, I get it. This is a unnatural way of getting engaged and finding your forever partner. But for me, it's Milton's sister and mother that had me laughing. Maybe I wasn't supposed to be laughing, but I was, okay? When Milton's sister said her mom will know Lydia's credit score before she even walks out the door, because Milton's mom asked for Lydia's last name, I laughed, because you know what? That just reminds me of something that happened personally, and it was just so great. It's so funny to me, but it's so accurate too. And you can tell that Milton was having some sort of anxiety episode, because all of a sudden the camera's cut to him trying to open a cork in a wine bottle with his teeth. Like, dog, we already know you have good teeth. Why are you messing this up or trying to mess it up? Eventually it doesn't happen, but he's just being a little awkward. I'm like, Milton, get it together, homie. Stop trying to open up a wine bottle with your teeth. So eventually we get to Milton's mom questioning the heck out of Lydia, and I kind of like it. 21 questions, lay it on us, because yes, it's good that she's trying to get to the core of Lydia and figure out if this is a for real thing or not. But Milton's sister said, I'm done asking all the questions, I'm gonna cut to the chase. Milton legit said he believes that what they have is phony, or Milton's sister said that. Like, dog, imagine how Milton and Lydia must feel hearing that, like, Lord. But yeah, Milton's sister thinks it's a phony relationship, and you know what? There was an instance that I had in episode 8, I believe it was, where it feels like Lydia's sort of going through the motions with her answers and reactions, and that's something Milton's sister brings up as well. Actually, it was Milton's mom, excuse me. Milton's mom says that she feels Lydia's answers are scripted. Kind of felt that way too at the beginning of episode 8. So my question for you, real family, do we trust the sisterly intuition of Milton's sister Jessica, or are we going to just sit here and say, you know, maybe they're being hard on purpose and they'll come around, it's normal? I kind of am with Milton's sister a little bit. I hate to say it because I want them to thrive and be happy together, so I hope I'm wrong. But I'm kind of with her. Alrighty, so now let's transition to Izzy and Stacy. So if you recall earlier this season, Izzy already met Stacy's family, but Stacy didn't meet Izzy's family. In this instance though, Stacy's just meeting Izzy's mom, Raina. It seems like, and we hear about this later on in episode 9, I believe it is, it seems like Izzy's family is not necessarily on board with what's going on with Love is Blind, so only Izzy's mom was willing to go and meet Stacy. So Izzy's mom, let's be honest here, she's a sweetheart. However, she's got a little savagery to her too. She said she's a little bit, you know, nervous about all of this and second guessing some things, and made sure to tell Stacy, this is not a game, she said. This ain't tic-tac-toe with my son. So she's actually questioning now, and she says this out loud, is this the right person for my son? That's got to make Stacy feel a little insecure, or maybe just feel sad. But at the same time, I get Izzy's mom and where she's coming from. And you know what? I think Stacy did too. And it just seemed like, again, such a mature moment. And I thought, wow, it's crazy what happens when Uche's not in the room. Although I gotta call out Stacy's dog. I forgot the name. I genuinely forgot the name. Like Tuxedo or something like that. I don't know. Not Tuxedo Mask. But Stacy's dog ends up chewing Izzy's mom's purse before Stacy arrives to the apartment. I'm sorry? You put that dog in another room and put a gate, or you get a crate. If the dog's gonna do that to people, no, not okay. To chew someone's purse. And then Izzy's mom's so sweet. She's like, I have many more purses. It's just a purse. No, girl, that's your property. And I'm tired. I'm tired of, like, sometimes people just not being able to train their dogs properly when guests come over. If you can't control your dog, you gotta put it in another room. Just saying. But I digress. It's time to move on from the Meet the Parents segment to the dress and suit shopping. Shoot shopping? Are they shopping for shoots? No, guys, it's almost that time. We are days away from weddings, and you know what that means, Love is Blind fans. It's time to go to bridal stores, and it's time to go to tuxedo shops, get our suits, get our dresses, and figure out what we're wearing on the big day. So let me spend as much time in the suit shopping section as they did in episode 9. Okay, moving on to the dress shopping section, and they did linger a little bit more here. By the way, I was not joking. We hardly got anything from the guys in the suit shopping segment. It was baffling to me. But at least we get some cool moments with our brides-to-be, and that is, of course, Lydia and Stacy, and somehow Renee just seems to be popping up anywhere this season. So, of course, she's in the bridal store with all the other girls. Stacy's dress, I was pleasantly surprised with, honestly. It looks not Stacy-esque. I feel like I expected more like a blinged out dress, but it's subtle at the top and the bottom is more flowy. I forgot what they call that, the train. Is that what they call that? I'm sorry, I'm learning. Sorry ladies, but like I think it's called a train. So it looked nice, the veil looked nice, everything looked nice about her dress. And Lydia's dress I was not as like much of a fan of. I don't know. I mean, who am I to say her dress is one I'm not a fan of? She's the one that has to pick it out and love it, and it seems like she did. Although then she decided to twerk in the dress, and I'm like, Lydia, let's act to your age, not your shoe size, please. However, you can tell it was a sweet moment. Her mom was crying. It was heartfelt, right? And it was nice to hear her mom in her testimonial interview speak in Spanish. And you know, just you could feel the emotion, and you could just tell that, guys, this is real for them. But is it real for Lydia? We'll find out next week. Alrighty, so we're done shopping for clothes, you guys. It's time to talk about how close we are now to the big day and some of the events that are leading up to our altar moments. So both Stacy and Izzy get their marriage license right along with Milton and Lydia. Of course, they didn't do it at the same time, but it's nice to see that their marriage licenses are official. No turning back. $74, and Milton threw the credit card down. And that man said, put it on the charge card and let me get my rewards points. I'm sure he's getting rewards points. He's Milton. And I love how much they seem to be getting along, right? So it's time for our final dates. And of course, we got to go with the good, and then we'll end with the dramatic, because there are some dramatic last dates here. Now, I love how thoughtful Izzy was with the airplane date. I thought it was so cute, and it was basically inspired by Izzy's conversation with Stacy's dad. Stacy's dad said sometimes love is first class, or sometimes love wants first class. And Izzy's like, you know what? Let me remember this, put this in the memory bank, and show Stacy what fun life could be with me. And I'm like, oh, that's so cute. Although that plane looked a little rickety. I mean, Listen, I don't know if they're Christian or not, but I would have been praying before, on, and after that plane ride. And this is where Izzy revealed that the majority of his family won't be at the wedding on purpose. And that's because Izzy didn't invite them. I sat there almost applauding Izzy, and I'm like, that's right, I know that's right, because at your wedding, on your wedding day with you and your beautiful bride, you do not want negativity in the room. So the people in the room are going to be the people that were there for you, that have been there for your relationship, that love you, that want to see you succeed, that will pray for you and pray with you. Those are the people you want in the room. Those are the people I want in the room too. So, you know what? Good job, Izzy. I'm so happy that you are okay with that. Not many people are, right? But I'm glad for Izzy. Now, they did a little dance, a little song and dance. They were, I'm holding my belly right now. But the editing in this sequence was what really ticked me off. It was so nauseating. And I know I said that in my spoiler-free thoughts. But again, way to ruin a moment. Love is Blind, way to do it. So all is great, right? Wrong. Apparently there was a convo off camera, and we cut back to Stacy and Izzy, and they must have had some sort of financial conversation about credit cards. Long story short, it seems like Stacy and Izzy went on a little drive. Stacy said, "Do you have a credit card to pay for gas?" And Izzy said no, but was reluctant to mention why he didn't have the credit card. It's because he has awful credit, according to Izzy. And it was because I guess he missed a payment for $3,500 or something like that. And that can really hurt your credit score for sure. But yet again, they talked through it. They got through it. And it seems like they're on the path to the altar and they might say yes together. Only time will tell. But we got another engaged couple to talk about in their final day, and that's Milton and Lydia. And man, their date rocked. rocked for a little while, but not for long. They went to a museum and they were looking at gemstones and all these cool stones and other scientific names for stones, but it looked cool. And, it was thoughtful because Lydia's a geologist and Milton loves geology. So really neat until they start to unearth some things that they are not seeing eye to eye on. It seems like they had a little tiff before this dinner date, and I could tell that the tension in the air was palpable because the waiter must have been thinking, what convo did I just get myself in the middle of? But props to the waiter for not making much of a face, but I could just tell. It seems like the Uche-Lydia conversation is coming up yet again, and Milton is trying to get Lydia to understand his point of view and vice versa with Lydia and her point of view, because it seems like Lydia is not willing to compromise on how emotional she can get with these situations. Milton, on the other hand, wants Lydia to work on that because that's not how he would react and not how he would want their children to react if they were to have kids together as well. So it kind of got deep, and this is the first time I think they had a real argument on camera, and for it to be days before your wedding, not great. These are things they probably should have talked out before. But Milton straight up said at one point, like, I feel like you're not even listening to me and acknowledging what I'm saying. You're just in your own bubble. So Lydia gets upset, stands up and says, I need a minute. Goes, cries, comes back. They're holding hands, but it didn't feel like a tender moment because I think they're both still kind of recovering from the argument and they're not necessarily still seeing eye to eye. So I just don't know what to think about them now. At first I was so confident, and now I'm feeling less inclined. But again, I'll save my predictions for my predictions video because I just don't know if Milton is going to be okay with the way Lydia acts and reacts in these situations. Listen, Lydia, how do you not remember that you're on a different axis? You're on the x-axis. Uche's on the y-axis. Don't be an Uche, be an x-axis. I'm trying, Milton. I really am. So we've got one engaged couple that seems to be in a good way, and we have another, Milton and Lydia, that seem like they're in the worst shape ever. So guys, what happens during weddings? I guess we'll find out together because next week, that's right, Friday, I'll be back same time, same place, recapping and reviewing our weddings episode. Who says I do and who says I don't? Because if Milton says I don't, Lydia's gonna get upset. Okay, Lydia's gonna blow a casket. We don't, or gasket, one of the other words. We don't need to see that. Or do we? We'll find out though. So again, if you haven't already, hit the big red button below and subscribe to the channel. Tap on the bell so you'll be notified when that recap and review drops. And go ahead, give this video a like and get loud down below in the comments, y'all. Let me know what you think of episodes 8 and episodes 9. Or it should just be episodes 8 and 9. I'm sorry, it's late. I'm trying to put together coherent sentences. But still, let me know what you think. Are you Team Uche? Or are you Team Lydia? What do you feel about our remaining couples? Who says I do and who says I don't? Can't wait to drop that predictions video and then get into my recap and review next Friday. So, guys, there you have it. I gotta go and figure out who says I do and I don't. Thanks, Netflix, for sending me these episodes early, because I can't wait any longer. Alrighty, y'all. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. Uche, stay away from me. Stay away from me.